Development Corporation and President and CEO of the Cortland County Industrial Development Agency since 2009 after serving 8 years as Executive Director of the Cortland County Chamber of Commerce. Prior to that, he was a staff member of the Metropolitan Development Association, Central New York's regional economic development entity, now known as Center State CEO. He's been a general assignment reporter at a number of newspapers, including the Cortland Standard. And he's a Cortland native with degrees in journalism and political science. I'm sure many of you know him, but please join me in giving Garry a warm Rotary welcome.
Thank you. Thank you all. I appreciate it very much. I put together quickly a PowerPoint presentation to go through with you all. I promise it won't be too painful, and hopefully there'll be some time left at the end to answer any questions. Bob already asked me a good one, so I will. If you want me just to leap into this, I'll do that. See if I can get it done. Bear with me. Okay, everybody got that? Great. So again, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And I'm just going to give you a little sense of what we've been up to over the course of the past year, and maybe a snapshot of where we're headed. And again, I'll take some questions at the end. So obviously, 2020 was like no other year that I've ever experienced, and I doubt that I'm the oldest one here, but I'll guess that some of you folks haven't seen anything like this either. We had to respond very quickly to the coronavirus. We had already been in some transition. And Harriet just made mention of it. We moved our offices to 40 Main Street, December 2019. We'd been at 37 Church for a number of years. The county was desirous of taking the building back for its own purposes, so we made the decision to find other quarters, and we settled on 40 Main Street. As I said, we've been here since 2019. We expected some transitional issues, but then, of course, in February, March, we were like everyone else hit with the challenges of the pandemic. So we looked inward first. Like everyone, we took a hard look at working remotely. We not only established our own protocols for staying open and staying safe, but also in counseling businesses around Cortland County and how they might do that as well. It was a bit like drinking from a fire hose, as people waited to know whether they were essential businesses or whether they were not. How many employees can I have? What are the protocols? Who do I get information from? And as you all remember, it was a bit of a cluster at the very beginning, not pointing fingers at anyone. No one, as I said, had been through this before. I think the state probably did the best job it could under the circumstances, but we did our best to try and walk people through that process. We took a hard look at our own finances. We are funded primarily the BDC 100% from Cortland County. The IDA has its own resources, but the BDC and our staff is funded through the county. So we had to make sure that we were doing the right things in anticipation of a tough budget year. We canceled some events, as noted here. We eliminated a position. We retooled our website to offer the latest information that we could. And we got heavily involved with other economic development groups around the state and region. Empire State Development, Small Business Association, which was particularly important when the PPP and EIDL programs rolled out, and all of our economic development colleagues around Central New York in particular. Central New York defined as Onondaga County, Cayuga, Oswego, Madison, and Cortland. Onondaga, of course, the center of the universe. Other things that we worked on, as I said, we prioritized our spending, but we did get involved with some things that we think were helpful. We established our protocols to get information out, but we also put some resources up to buy thousands of masks for businesses when they were in severe difficulty in finding them. We actually got involved with distributing the masks. We partnered with a hotel restaurant group to get masks out to their members, and we also underwrote that effort. And we met on a regular basis and continue to meet with SUNY Cortland to hear how they're doing. My hope is always that the college doesn't look at itself as an entity unto itself, but that it understands it has a real role in the community, and how we interact really dictates how we move forward as a community. Oh my, let's see. Sorry for the technical glitch there. We also we have a revolving loan program at the BDC. It's very well capitalized. It's a program that we've had for a number of years. We decided to repurpose it for those who might need it in an emergency fashion, a COVID loan, so to speak. And to date, we've got about $115,000 out. There are a few more loans pending. We eased the terms for those businesses, and really tried to do what we could in concert with the EIDL loan and the PPP loan to help small businesses in particular keep their doors open. It got us through the summer and into the fall, and I think it's been very effective. Also, we with our partners in the various municipalities and the Conventions and Visitors Bureau and the Chamber of Commerce stood up a PR program, Cortland County Comeback, that was designed to, again, provide good information and good news about those businesses that were doing their best to keep their doors open in service to the greater community. And when we rolled that out, we got a great response. I list a few of them here from the Central New York and regional media. So all in all, I'm proud that the BDC was able to help underwrite that. I mentioned earlier what some of our activities were with respect to the rollout. I won't go through these again, but you all remember how confusing that was for folks. I think we played an important role there. And as you know, with PPP Phase 2 now being announced, we'll still be answering phone calls from businesses as to their eligibility, how they can go about getting those loans forgiven. The good news is that those businesses have, for the most part, those who needed it, established relationships with their lending institutions, and I think that has smoothed out a little bit. There will be some new folks coming into this, and I hope there are, because this truly is a lifeline. I did hear from SBA today. The regulations for that have yet to be announced, but I can't imagine they'll wait too long before letting us know when we can get our business community, our small business community, access to those important dollars so that they can keep people employed as we work through this thing toward the end of spring and early summer. But the world keeps turning. I mentioned the move. Part of the move enabled us to get involved with the completion of the redevelopment of the building here at 40 Main Street. It was a project that was partially completed when we came in at the end of 19. I'm happy to say the building is now complete, and our efforts here were assisted by the Downtown Partnership. Evan and the board there have been very good in working with us to get this building back online. We were able to secure the Convention and Visitors Bureau, which occupies the first floor of this building, and also we have a lease now with SUNY Cortland. Part of the idea here is to create an entrepreneurial center and an incubator in partnership with SUNY Cortland. So that was really important that we were able to pull that together, and we did that through the darkness of the pandemic. We have been and continue to be an advocate for the Downtown Revitalization Project, the DRI. That is a $10 million grant that we received some years ago. I would say probably the most impactful piece of that is the rehab and rebuild of the street itself. That's to include new work on infrastructure under the surface, and as well as new infrastructure above the surface, public gathering spaces, walking spaces, and the like. We'll also be focusing on the arts, really trying to recreate downtown Cortland as a neighborhood, as opposed to a place to speed through at 40 miles an hour. We want people to take their time. The two-way reconfiguration of the traffic pattern has been controversial because it's new. Well, it's not new, but it's been 49 or 50 years since it was changed. And so we know how change is, and some people are a little bit resistant to it. But again, the feeling that we have in our discussions with traffic safety experts is that the two-way street will lend to that neighborhood feeling, slow people down, and enhance, I guess, an atmosphere that would be inviting to people to come into our downtown district. And we're attempting to create a district that is a great place to live, a great place to have fun, and a great place to work. We were very fortunate to get that $10 million grant. It was highly competitive, and lots of other communities wanted it. So we fought some headwinds when we started talking about things that were new and things that were different. But these things are still on tap, and I'm personally excited, and I hope when it's all done, we'll see how worthwhile the endeavor was. In addition to the Main Street rebuild, we are talking about other building rehabs. The most significant one right now is at 83 Main Street across from the post office. It's the largest building on the street, 4-story building. The Chamber of Commerce will be occupying that space sometime, I hope, this summer. I think there'll be some other retail or commercial operation in there. Jamie Amon and Steve Franco doing a fantastic job with that building that, quite frankly, was in real danger of falling in on itself. Just can't say enough about the work those guys have done, and they put their necks on the line as young men and young developers in our community to step up and do an important project. So we're hopeful that people will be proud of that when it's done. We've seen other projects completed. The Vine Health Center at the end of the street has been completed. Our building is a DRI project. A couple of the buildings owned by the McNeils have been completed and are DRI projects. These are private sector projects, not public sector projects. So while these projects did receive some dollars, the majority of them are being funded by the building owners and investors. And I think that's important to note. One of the other important pieces of it was the $600,000 grant loan program, which is going to be funding some smaller or lower scale level projects, facade renovations and the like. The CrossFit Center right next to us is a good example of a building that's going to get a facelift. That business is gone, but the owners are interested in a redevelopment so they can attract someone, hopefully other than a tattoo parlor. I shared that with the owner the other day, and he agreed with me. So we're being encouraged by that. And there's some other great projects up and down the street, including some lighting projects that you'll see come up as time goes on. Pardon me. And so that's just one small example of the work that BDC does. I was able to advocate for the DRI as a member of the Regional Economic Development Council, appointed by the governor. I've been on that since it was begun 10 years ago, and very proud of the fact that we brought that home. But we do other things as well. We get involved with the Micro Enterprise Assistance Program. Karen and our team is very effective working with small businesses. Here's just a few of them that Karen has counseled. And these have provided grants for smaller businesses that wouldn't otherwise have access to dollars. Rincon Hispano, Frosted, New York Bagel, some of the others. So we really try to pay attention to the plight and the fate of a small business in our community. But our scope is broad, as I said. We've been involved with the redevelopment of the Ramada. That now is, we believe, pardon me, subject to a purchase option by a new hotelier. I don't believe they've closed on the project as of yet, but we're excited about that. As you know, that was a very important hotel for us in Cortland over the years. So to bring that back online in a positive way is really, really important. We're involved with Dave Yeaman and his partners on productive reuse of the Buckby Mears facility. That's a long, sad story, but we're glad that we were able to get that back into local control after the Bank of India held on to it for a number of years. I tell people the Bank of India couldn't have found the Buckby Mears plant with a Boy Scout and a map. And so for us to have that back online with an opportunity to bring jobs is really a great thing. And David is now entertaining lots of different options. There are very few 200,000 square feet buildings in central New York and really not many more in the Northeast. So he's getting a lot of interest right now. Of course, we're marketing the former Marvin Windows facility. The Wernick building is gearing up for a nice project on the north side of the community. We're still looking and hopeful that we'll see a redevelopment of the Homer Avenue Plaza. Healthcare in Cortland County is very important. As you guys all know, the merger or the affiliation with Guthrie was so important to us and to the community because, frankly, if COVID had hit and that had been Cortland Regional Medical Center, I really shudder to think what might have happened to local healthcare with respect to our local hospital. We're fortunate that Cayuga is here and our residents have options, but we really need our own hospital, and I'm really proud of the fact that Guthrie's moving forward there. Apex, that's a bit of a puzzle. You know, the company closed. There is some activity going on over there. I believe asbestos and some other things are being removed. There is a new owner. We're hopeful that that will result in some productive reuse. We acquired some years ago the former hotel on Route 11 across from the Tolai's Market. And we just recently conveyed that property to the Village of Homer as part of its plan to redevelop that corridor between the village and the city line over the viaduct. So that's really an important project for us. And then working with Rich Cunningham and the city and others on various brownfield redevelopment opportunities in the city. These are just some images of some other companies we've worked with very recently. Bio365 is a dirt manufacturer, basically, that has occupied the former warehouse at Buckby Mears and also built a companion 30,000 square foot building. It's high-level manufacturing for soils primarily used in indoor agriculture. We're guessing that if the state of New York legalizes marijuana, they may be well positioned to develop new markets for that product, as that would be a controlled environment. They're also active with hemp growth and some other things around the nation. Really interesting business over there. J.M. Murray's expanding. We've worked with Ernie and his team out there to bring that along. These are a few of the others. Greek Peak is really doing great. Head and Heel, I mentioned previously, a very strong and young but growing company. I think one that we'll see some great things from. Marathon Boat Group was key to the efforts we had at the end of last year, and they were ready to expand when COVID hit. But great news coming out of Marathon Boat. Cortland Line, another company we worked with, which was really at death's door after 100 years, is now growing its market and regaining its global brand. And Joe Reagan at Royal Auto Group, we worked with them extensively to help Joe's expansion of Royal out there in South Cortland. But it's more than small business. It's more than manufacturing. We believe strongly in sports tourism as an economic driver, which is why we've been very involved with the development of Gutchess Park in South Cortland. The town of Cortlandville, I think, took a strong leadership role in getting that place built. If you haven't seen it, you should go check it out. The idea is that it will be an attractive park for community residents, but also a magnet for folks coming to play here. Right now, it's baseball. We have 2 fields there. I believe there was $1.5 million generated there in its first year. Even in the COVID year, with all the restrictions and shutdowns, the park still had interest, and most importantly, it's drawing interest for 2021. John McNerney runs that with Michelle Phelps at the Regional Sports Council. And of course, the folks in the town of Cortlandville. The schedule is filling up fast, and the opportunity we have is to continue to grow that. We're talking with potential partners. We're talking about potential construction of new fields. It really could be a showpiece in the Northeast that brings thousands of people to our community, millions of dollars, and could spur a residual development, whether it's hotels, restaurants, and it could obviously drive employment and occupancy tax. Those are all good things, and it's all because of baseball. So a lot of people have a hard time connecting the two, but it's critical, and very few communities our size have been able to do this around the country. It's a really important project, and I'm really excited about that one. Pardon me. Bob asked me about solar development. This is something that was essentially dropped in the IDA's lap, not just our IDA, but IDAs around the state of New York. As the state prioritized the development of renewable energy, it provided incentives for the companies to come into communities like ours, where there's almost unlimited farmland and almost unlimited enthusiasm by some of these farmers to lease their farmland. All you really need is the property with access or proximity to the electrical infrastructure to get a deal started. Of course, then you have to pass muster with the various host communities with respect to site plan and all that sort of thing. We were very busy throughout 19 and even in the COVID year with projects. As you see here, we've done 6 of them. Most of them of the smaller size, 5 megawatt is relatively small. 2 larger ones, one in Solon and one in Willett, are 20 megawatt. We have had a number of conversations with the folks wishing to build the project in the 3 communities, Homer, Cortlandville, and Solon. That's a 90 megawatt facility that will be subject to a whole host of rules independently of the process we're involved with right now. That project has gone a bit silent. I don't know if that's COVID related, but it's clear that the governor is intent on reaching a renewable threshold. And without projects that are 90 megawatt, we'll never get there. We're not going to get there with 5 meg projects. Whether they're good, whether they're bad, I'm fairly agnostic about it. We view these as opportunities for capital investment. You can see here just the projects we've done have brought in over $150 million in capital investment, and also millions more in new revenue to the host communities. Is there an end? I think the end of it will come when communities say they don't want them anymore and write their laws to reflect that. It's not the IDA's job to, frankly, say no. If the project's viable, we'll look at it. If it's in a bad situation or a bad location, we'll look at that too. So these are not rubber stamps, but they're part and parcel of what IDAs have to do in 2021. I expect it will continue, although we have entered into an agreement with towns around Cortland County. The towns have established a threshold for what they'd like to see in revenue. I frankly think the thresholds are too high, and a lot of the developers I've spoken with think that they're too high. Nonetheless, we've agreed to work with our towns, our town leaderships, and honor their wishes. We'll see if that slows things up. My guess is it will. We'll see. I think that's about it. You know, that's a very quick summary of the things that we're into. We are looking for some growth in 21. We're going to be looking at adding another ED specialist. We're enthusiastic about doing more for our downtowns, not just downtown Cortland, but Homer, Marathon, Cincinnatus, all the others. And we want to be advocates for all of them. And we want to be advocates for growth in our community in every sense possible. So there's my 20 minutes. I apologize if I went on a little bit too long.
Thank you, Gary. And I wanted to say, I wanted to say thank you very much to Gary. He, when the Cortland Center was looking at the PPP stuff earlier this year, he was a tremendous asset and tremendous help throughout the entire pandemic, trying to figure out what the hell was going on. And it's also been a pleasure working with him at the Downtown Partnership. We've gotten a lot done. So it's thank you for everything, Garry. I'm very excited about everything that's going on in the community.
Thank you.
I liked hearing about the face masks you were distributing. One thing that Rotary's been doing is, because it's all Zoom, we've had the opportunity to make an impact on the local hunger problem by working through several social service agencies. And we've also been very fortunate to host speakers like you to talk about all the good work you're doing. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I appreciate the opportunity. I don't get as many as I would like, but this is a great group, and I really appreciate the chance to talk about what we're doing.
Any other questions here?
Yes, Garry. Garry, do you have any idea how many businesses have gone out of business because of COVID?
I get that question. It's a hard one to answer. I mean, you know, I remember, I tell this story from years ago. I won't name the business, but it was when the first Walmart was coming to Cortland. This was a clothing store downtown. And I used to buy my winter coats there or whatever. And I went in and spoke to the owner one day, and I said, you know, your selection's a little bit slimmer than it used to be. And he said, well, I can't compete with Walmart. Well, Walmart didn't sell men's coats for over your suit. They didn't sell that. I think it was an excuse to use to maybe shut things down. In this situation, some businesses may have been doing poorly before COVID even showed up, may have decided to close for reasons other than COVID and talked about COVID, or it could be that COVID certainly exacerbated other challenges. I don't know of any. I mentioned the CrossFit. They closed. Now, they closed, and the owners moved to North Carolina. Would they still be running their training center if COVID hadn't happened? It's hard for me to say, but they're not open. I think when we drive around our community in 6 months, we'll probably be able to point to some different places and say, oh, wow, they never came back. It's hard for me to say definitively now which ones. I will say that I think we've been lucky in that we have so many businesses that were considered essential. So our major employers, our manufacturers were able to continue operating, albeit at lower numbers. We didn't see any real shutdowns of major employment, but certainly the employment strain was felt by everyone, even the essential businesses. And I know a lot of you can attest to that. We all had to do more with less.
Garry, anything that's going to happen to Brewer Tichenor on River Street?
You mean the park itself, or the
building?
Oh, you're talking about the Apex site? Yeah,
Is that
the old
Brewer Tichenor?
Well, as I said, they closed, they buttoned it up. They wanted to convey the site to us. They would have given it to the IDA for $1. It would have cost more than $1 to take that building down. So beware of gifts, right? It wasn't a deal we wanted to take on. As I said, there has been a sale of the property to a new owner who's in there now. He constructed it. I haven't been able to connect with the owner. My hope is that, they'll get the asbestos out and then they'll take the building down and we'll have a clean slate to market, because it's in a great spot, proximity to the highway, it's zoned the right way, no real rooftops, and the rooftops that are there are used to the hammer room. So, a lot of the folks over there would welcome, I think, many different uses. It's just a question of what's going to happen with the structure that's still there. That has been the 800, 900 pound gorilla with that site.
That's not considered a brown area, is it?
It's a brownfield, yes.
Is it? Okay.
So we've been talking with, as I said, with Rich and his team at Toma about how we might be able to incentivize through the state's brownfield programs, other development. If developers come in, can we help facilitate growth there. Maybe it's for residential, maybe it's for, I don't even want to speculate. It could be really for anything, but it is zoned the right way for manufacturing.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
it's a tough one though, Bob. As I said, the company is willing to give the building away, but not much of a gift.
Gary, I was wondering if you could speak to how many businesses are looking for employees.
Everyone I talk to. I mean, it's the one thing that resonates when I talk to people. I'll read, well, what does Cortland need? And people say we need more jobs, we need good jobs. When I tell the county legislature that you can go anywhere and get a job, they almost wonder if that's true, but it is true. I mean, I grew up here, as was mentioned. I don't ever remember help wanted in front of Paul Corp, help wanted in front of Gutchess, help wanted everywhere. It's probably the major hurdle that we have, not just in Cortland County, but in central New York, getting people off the sidelines and getting them back to work. And that's exacerbated now by the COVID relief situation. We all know about the $600 assistance for unemployment. That really was a disincentive to go back to work. I know that's been cut in half now, but yeah, it's a real challenge, Clint. And we're working hard on workforce. We work with Amy Buggs. We work with this group called the Street Beaters. Karen and our team is very involved with those folks. We've worked with TC3, with BOCES, trying to do trainings and all sorts of things. But the bottom line is people need to want to go back to work. And that's something that's really changed in our world over the last 20 years. It's a challenge.
Gary, anything on Clinton Avenue?
You mean with respect to the redevelopment of it?
No, so much more of the, I know you're putting in whatever, water, sewer, whatever, and the lines going up through, but it's gotten worse and worse, and that's supposed to be a gateway to Cortland downtown and all that kind of stuff. And then of course we have good old Groton Avenue. That's always a charm.
Right.
So, but I'll stick with Clinton Avenue. What are your thoughts, and when's that going to happen?
That's been a pretty aggressive project that the city has undertaken, and I don't really know why the water sewer infrastructure took as long as it took. We lost the whole summer to planning and design. I'm not that closely involved with that, but I do know that the end product is going to be something that we're all proud of. Mac Cook at the city, I think, has done a really great job of finding many millions of dollars to get that done. So those asphalt driveway aprons and sidewalks, they're all going to be replaced. The idea is to have green infrastructure there, capture rainwater, bike paths, all that. It really is the intent. And I believe it's going to run through that intersection and up Groton Avenue for a bit as well. I think that's part of the plan. I did speak today with the DOT. They're applying for significant dollars, federal dollars, that at some point are going to be used on Port Watson, on Tompkins Street, on Groton Avenue as state highways. So I think within the next year or so, we're going to see a real commitment to the rebuilding of those streets as well. They certainly need it. I know the city would like to do more than it can do with CHIPS funding continually being eliminated for municipalities. It's just really tough to get our streets done. Budget challenges are real. I think they're doing the best they can, but at least the streets that I just mentioned will be rebuilt, I think, within the next year or so.
Okay, great.
Well, we're talking about streets. You mentioned in your presentation that Main Street, half of the DRI money was for Main Street. Your PowerPoint said about the traffic flow. I didn't see it's going to go two-way. Is that still up in the air?
No, that's happening. I just, I guess sometimes I don't want to poke the bear, so I leave it out of the presentation. But no, that's still happening. It's interesting, there really isn't a lot of money committed to that. It's more of a mindset that as a community we've got to adopt. The street changed in 1969 as an experiment. It was a 50-year experiment. And we had a lot of discussions with traffic safety people from around the country. One-way street conversions happened all around the country at the time, and a lot of communities are going back to two-way because the downtown urban centers all struggled with the development of malls, and now, of course, with the development of with online sales being so strong. We've got to do what we can do to revitalize those streets, and two-way is one element to it.
Are they still going to have telephone poles on Clinton Avenue with all the redoing? It would be easy to bury the cables and make it a lot less unsightly with those telephone poles.
Yeah, I would hope that underground is part of it. I honestly don't know the answer to that, but yeah, that's everyone's dream. When we built the business park in where Burned Dairy is, that was a really important element to that, is to get that power buried. The cost is just outrageous, but hopefully, I wish I knew the answer to that. My guess would be it's not, but I'll ask that question.
What are they going to do about parking when it comes to the two-way streets? It'll cut the parking in more than half.
Yeah, the company that was hired to look at that, a company called Shaw, I believe that's right, have a traffic safety team and parking experts that are looking at that. That's a great question. As we've built capacity for living downtown, more and more we're seeing the need for long-term parking, not just your 2-hour deal. And I feel strongly that has to be part and parcel of what we're looking at when we rebuild our downtown. Parking garage isn't really realistic simply because of the cost, but I've encouraged the mayor and others to take a hard look at how we're going to deal with that question, because it's a fair one. Right now, I think we're fine. The toughest thing for people to wrap their head around was the proposal at first was for a diagonal back-in parking. And so back-in parking is something that's a fairly new trend around the country. They deem it to be safer than backing out past the F-3500 truck that parked next to you at the post office. You're already in the middle of the street before you know whether anyone's coming. If you can navigate backing in, it's easier to pull out. But it's that backing in part that's freaking people out. So that's been something that's been tossed around. I don't know what'll come out the end of the sausage maker when all that's done. They're talking about whether it should be parallel, whether it should be diagonal. I think what they'll settle on is whatever keeps the most spaces and whatever the community can live with. I don't have high hopes for the back end. I think they're doing it in Auburn and a few other spots around. Early returns, people didn't like it, but I can understand it.
Well, thank you very much for the generous amount of time. And as I said, I didn't realize, this is your design, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. That's great. Yeah.
Well, that's what you're getting. On the other side, you're getting the rotary thing. So
great. I don't even have one of those mugs with that design on it.
Well, you're going to have one.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Doug?
Thank you.